This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We're turning now to Buffalo, New York, where the death toll from this weekend's historic blizzard has climbed to at least 32 as more and more victims are discovered. State and military police were deployed to Buffalo Tuesday to enforce a driving ban as road conditions remain treacherous after Buffalo was buried in more than 50 inches of snow. Many people froze to death in snowbanks as well as in their homes and cars, among them a 22-year-old woman named Andell Taylor, whose family said she was stuck in her car for 18 hours before she died. Her body was found on Christmas after rescuers were unable to reach her earlier. She'd moved to Buffalo to care for her ailing father. Her family in Charlotte, North Carolina, spoke to WSOC-TV.
Just after midnight at 12:09 a.m. on Christmas Eve, Andell texted another video. Inching down her window, you can see conditions completely deteriorated.
Called 911, and she was waiting for them.
At this point, her sister Tamisha says she began to get angry. She says it seemed no one was coming to her sister's aid.
I feel like everybody that tried to get to her got stuck. Fire department, police. Why didn't they have chains on their tires? This is a state that's known for snow.
That report from WKBW. As thousands were left without power, heat, or food, pleading for help, Buffalo's Mayor Byron Brown complained about reports of looting.
I just want to add that people who are out looting when people are losing their lives in this harsh winter storm is just absolutely reprehensible. I don't know how these people can even live with themselves, how they can look at themselves in the mirror. They are the lowest of the low.
For more, we're joined in Buffalo by India Walton, former Buffalo mayoral candidate, longtime community activist, and Cariol Horne. She's a former Buffalo police officer who was fired for stopping a white cop from choking a handcuffed black man during an arrest in 2006. Ultimately, she got back pay for the years she fought in court against her unjust firing. Cariol is now an activist. She was arrested Sunday night on charges of disorderly conduct, obstruction of justice, and harassment as police responded to reports of looting. We welcome you both back to Democracy Now! Cariol Horne, let's go first to you. Talk about what happened and talk about the gravity of this, the horror of this storm. Hi, Cariol. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great.
Are you?
We hear you too. So if you can talk about what happened to you, how did you get arrested in this storm, and then the seriousness of the storm and the deaths of over 32 people at this point?
Well, actually, what happened for me to get arrested is that I was driving along one of the major streets, which is Bailey Street. And when I was driving down, I saw a car with a trunk open, and there were people sitting on the ground in the snow, and the police were there. So I was going to drive past, but, you know, I was saying that's not right for them to be in the snow because it was cold. They could get hypothermia. So I don't know why the police placed them in the snow. And I went and asked I got out of my vehicle and went around, and the officer came to me and said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I know that these people probably were stealing, but you need to get them out of the snow." And he said that if I didn't stop impeding his investigation, which I was not, that I would be in the snow. And then he proceeded to point his finger into my face, and then he pushed me. And then after that, then I'm not sure what I did. I think I pushed him back, and he picked me up, slammed me on the ground, and then arrested me and charged me with those 3 charges, all because he had people on a cold, wet, snowy, icy ground and didn't feel like I should have the audacity to ask that they not be on the ground.
And Cariol Horne, was it your sense that the officer recognized who you were, or he was just being normally uncivil to any civilian who might question what he was doing?
I am not sure, because when he first approached me, he was polite, and immediately that changed. Immediately, it's the culture of the Buffalo Police Department to treat people that way, and that is why I even wrote the law, Cariol's law, in the first place, was to try to change the culture. There's people in senior citizen buildings. My father's 97 years old, lost power. And for days, I couldn't get to him. And calling the police, they actually said they couldn't do anything. They were not answering calls. There were dead bodies. There was a dead body on the ground for like 2 days, and they're just down the street. So how they were not able to get that body, I'm not sure. But it took 2 days, and the persistence of just regular people in order for them to go get that body. And that was only one of the bodies. There were bodies on the expressway, in their cars, because they were stuck. They were not prepared at all. In the senior housing, LBJ, I've been working with Miles Carter and David Lewis, community advocates, and Miles is also a housing inspector. We went in, there's water leaking from the ceilings onto electrical lines. I mean, we called the fire department, and they said, well, they knew about it, and that BMHA knew about it. And as far as I know, like, they have gone into the building, but they did not evacuate those people at all. So these people are living in deplorable conditions with no backup generators. The body count, I think, is more than what they're saying. If there's live news crews to come to Buffalo, you should come, because now it's about to get warm, where the snow is going to melt, and I am sure the body count is going to be up there. The city was ill prepared, and they basically left people to die, and they're trying to say people are looting. I mean, not trying to say, because it did happen, but they are trying to max the fact that they were not prepared, and people died because they were not prepared. So now they want the looting to be the top story, and now they want to lump me in there to make it seem as if I was looting, when they know that I was only asking them to take the people off of the snow. Because when you arrest someone, when is it that somebody puts somebody on snow, on ice? You put them in a police car. It's only common sense. So now I have to face 3 frivolous charges, knowing that I didn't do anything wrong, but the city of Buffalo has targeted me and my family, and it continues to happen even during this storm, when I was out there helping people, because they were not answering calls.
I'd like to bring in India Walton to the conversation as well. Buffalo is famous for having these major snowstorms, although obviously this was a far greater blizzard. I wanted your assessment of how the city and the state were prepared or responded, especially considering that Governor Hochul is from Erie County. So if anyone knows the problems with these storms, it is the current governor of New York.
Yeah, good morning, Juan and Amy. Thanks for having me on. I think that the city's handling of this storm has been deplorable. I do applaud Kathy Hochul for a swift response, and I think that her and her collaboration with the county executive is more of a model of what the people of Buffalo and Western New York should expect in the collaboration between our state and local government when it comes to at least keeping people informed. I know that many state resources have come into the area, and I think folks like me, who've basically served as a de facto triage center, where folks are calling, DMing, emailing me to get help, we wonder where those resources are going, because it is everyday people like myself, like Cariol, like the Buffalo Mutual Aid Network, who are delivering food, who are going and rescuing people, who are going on search missions and doing wellness checks. It is the people of Buffalo, the everyday hardworking folks of this city who've been taking care of one another. And there has been an abject failure on the part of our municipal and city government to make sure that those things are being done. And in fact, as Cariol alluded to, there's a lot of victim blaming going on. The story that is being told is about looting, but what I know is that I'm not looting because I am in a comfortable home. I have power, I have food, and I have resources. And when a community is disinvested from and does not have resources, you create the kinds of conditions where folks who are already in desperate situations and in needy times feel that more afraid that they won't be able to get their basic needs met.
How many warming centers, India, are there in Buffalo with this freezing cold weather? India, can you hear me?
I can now.
How many warming centers are there in Buffalo?
The city of Buffalo had 2 warming centers open. And I live very close to a private college, so it opened its doors independently of any collaboration with the city. So, you know, there were a lot of private citizens who were opening their homes, but as far as any city-sponsored warming centers, I know of about 2. And at one point, there were 30,000 Buffalonians without power, 2 warming centers open, no public transit, a travel ban, and no emergency services. 911 was basically suspended. They said out of their own mouths publicly, don't even bother calling because we cannot help you. And I just don't understand how folks pay taxes, work hard, try and do the right thing and still receive this type of treatment.
Well, let me ask you something. I mean, you're in Buffalo Bills territory. Why would we raise this now with this Katrina-like moment in Buffalo? Well, in March, New York officials approved a record-breaking $850 million in public subsidies to help the Buffalo Bills build a new football stadium, the deal including $600 million from the state of New York, $250 million from Erie County. Your thoughts on this, and what kind of money is being spent to prepare for these massive storms that are increasing?
Buffalo has a public works fleet of snowplows that is inadequate. Those departments remain understaffed. We spend more money on policing than we do making sure we have basic resources. In fact, the Buffalo police were calling for private citizens who own snowmobiles to come help rescue people. Why doesn't the city have snowmobiles? Why doesn't the city have smaller equipment? Why doesn't the city have heavier equipment, right? There are lots of whys, but I think that when it comes to spending $1 billion to fund, a billionaire's new stadium project, we need to look at the infrastructure of this city. We need to look at why we see photos of literal houses being blown over because we have the oldest housing stock in the nation. We have to look at why people are still with inadequate basic infrastructure, why people have been without power for 4 or 5 days. I think that $1 billion is much better invested in infrastructure and adequate, safe, affordable housing and, other things that keep people truly safe than it is in our sports team, which I love very much. I'm a huge fan. But I just think that there are many other ways that we can better use our resources than subsidizing folks who could very well build a new stadium themselves if they really wanted that.
And India, I wanted to ask you, given the possible warming weather now, your concerns about flooding and how the city will have to deal with flooding?
Yeah, interesting fact, the automated sump pump was invented in Buffalo. The weather is warming. We're already seeing a warming trend. Not only will there be massive flooding, there's also going to be ice and slick surfaces, slick roads. The conditions, although warm, are going to continue to be very hazardous. And as of as of now, I've not heard any plan to deal with any of this. I'm hearing reports of, as the snow plows are making it down the street, as people are shoveling out, they're still finding dead bodies. There are just so many things that have gone unaddressed. There are people who've been unable to get to a full service grocer in 5 days. There are folks who are hungry, who are cold. People who've been stuck at work for 3 or 4 days. There are so many issues, and it seems like there's no plan, no communication. But as always, we come together as a community and do as best as we can to take care of one another.
India Walton, we want to thank you for being with us. Former Buffalo mayoral candidate and community activist with Roots Action and Working Families Party. And Cariol Horne, the former Buffalo police officer who in 2006 was fired after she stopped a white officer from putting a black man in a chokehold. In 2020, Buffalo adopted Cariol's law to require police to intervene if a fellow officer uses excessive force. She was arrested again during this storm. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, as thousands of Southwest Airlines passengers remain stranded across the United States amidst an unprecedented operational meltdown, we'll get response from the Southwest Airline Flight Attendants Union and from the president of Flyers' Rights. Stay with us.